Well, let's see here. All righty. Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. And to those of you joining us on YouTube and on templeshalom.com, Shabbat Shalom to all of you as well. Our Shabbat in between Yom Kippur and Sukkot. A very joyous time. Sukkot we call Zman Simchatinu, the time of our great joy. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, in just a little while here. Page 128. Second song from the top. Ma yafeh hayom Shabbat Shalom. How beautiful it is this day of Shabbat. Ma yafeh hayom Shabbat Shalom. 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 Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Right under that, Yiddi Nefesh, one of the beautiful poems of Shabbat, of the love poem of Shabbat going back a few hundred years. Our heart's delight as God draws us near on this Shabbat. Yiddi Nefesh Harachaman, Yiddi Nefesh Harachaman, Mishochatecha El Ritzonecha, Mishochatecha La 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 El Ritzonecha Yarut Avdecha Kemo We'll turn back to page 120 as we light our Shabbat candles. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. As we turn to page 130, we come into the Psalms of Kabalat Shabbat as we say goodbye to a busy week. It was a busy week in our lives and also a busy week in our time of Yom Kippur in the middle of our week. And so we say goodbye to those stresses that we may have had. Hopefully we are still in a place of pure souls and looking forward to a sweet and good year. Even though on Yom Kippur at the very end, we sang the words of El Nora Alila for those of you who were at the Mincha service, you heard those or at the Ne'ilah service, I should say, you heard those words of El Nora Alila as the gates begin to close. But the gates were in that in-between period between Yom Kippur and Sukkot. And so if we haven't finished the work of the days of awe, we continue to do that spiritual work. Even during this time of Shabbat, we bring ourselves into that peace. Lechu neranena. Come, let us sing joyfully to God as we enter into the peace and the rest of Shabbat. Page 130. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Naria, naria, l'tzuri shenu, l'kadma fana b'toda. Naria, naria, l'tzuri shenu, b'znira naria lo. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Psalm 96 on page 131. Let the heavens be happy. Let the earth rejoice. Let the sea also sing its songs, and all that fill them. We are now a little less than 2 weeks after Rosh Hashanah, where we give thanks for all of creation. And each week we get to continue the idea of saying thank you for that creation with several prayers, Ma'ariv Aravim, that we'll come to in a little while. But this psalm also, that all of God's creation gives thanks for creation so that we can interact with each other. The bottom paragraph on page 131. Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'tagel ha'aretz. Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'tagel ha'aretz. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, umelo. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, umelo. Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'tagel ha'aretz. From Psalm 97, we'll read together at the top of page 133, and then we'll sing a few of the words at the bottom of 132. Adonai is sovereign, let the earth exult, the many islands rejoice. Dense clouds are around God, righteousness and justice are the base of God's throne. O you who love Adonai, hate evil, God guards the lives of God's loyal ones, serving them from the hand of the wicked. Light is sown for the righteous, radiance for the upright. O you righteous, rejoice in Adonai and acclaim God's holy name. The bottom of 132, Or Zarua la Tzadik, U Yishrei Lev Simcha, light is sown for the righteous and radiance for the upright. Or Zarua la Tzadik, U Yishrei Lev Simcha. Or Zarua la Tzadik, U Yishrei Lev Simcha. Or Zarua la Tzadik, U Yishrei Lev Simcha. U Yishrei Lev Simcha. together Psalm 98, the bottom of page 133. A psalm, sing to Adonai a new song. For God has worked wonders. God's right hand, God's holy arm has won God victory. Adonai has manifested God's victory, has displayed God's triumph in the sight of the nations. God was mindful of God's steadfast love and faithfulness toward the house of Israel. All the ends of the earth beheld the victory of our God. Raise a shout to Adonai, all the earth. Break into joyous songs of praise. We sing another joyous song of praise, Psalm 99. It's on page 135, the last three lines. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'yishtachavu l'har kodsho. We exult and we rejoice in our God, and we bow down at God's holy mountain. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'yishtachavu l'har kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'yishtachavu l'har kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'yishtachavu l'har kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'yishtachavu l'har kodsho. We welcome in the image of the Shabbat bride as we turn to page 139, 138 and 139. Lecha lecha doti likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikavela. Lecha lecha doti likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikavela la 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 la. Lecha doti likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikavela. Lecha doti likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikavela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Hishmianu el ha'miyuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shemu tiferet v'letchila la 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 la. Lecha doti likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikavela. Lecha doti likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikavela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'neocha, ki hi makor habracha, merosh mikedem nesucha. Zov ma'aseh v'machsheva tchila la 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 la. Lecha doti likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikavela. Lecha doti likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikavela. We're going to continue. We're going to sing all 9 verses tonight because it's such a beautiful poem that every once in a while we need to do that. Mikdash melech ir melucha, kumitzei mitoch hapecha, rav lach shevet be'emek habecha, v'hu yechamol alayichem la 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 la. Lecha doti likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikavela. Lecha doti likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikavela. Hitna'ari me'afar kumi, livshi bigdei tifartech ahmi. Al yad ben yishai ben halachmi, korval nafshi ge'ala la 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 la. Lecha doti likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikavela. Lecha doti likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikavela. Hit'oreri ki ba'orech kumi uri shir daberi, kibur Adonai alayich la 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 la. Lecha doti likrat kala pnei פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לא תבושי ולא תקרבי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי, בך יחסו עניי עמי, ונבנתה עיר אל תילה, לה 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 לה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. והיו במשייך שוסייך, ורחקו כל מבלייך, יסיס עלייך אלוהיך, כי אם שלוש חתן על קלה, לה 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 לה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. ימין ושמאל תפרוצי, ואת אדוני תעריצי, היד איש בן פרצי, ונשמחה ונגילה, לה 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 לה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. We rise, we face the door, as we welcome in the Shabbat bride. Boli v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha uv'tzola, toch emunei am segula, boi chala, la 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 la, lecha dodi לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לה 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 לה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Before we're seated, we've welcomed the Shabbat bride. Let's welcome each other. Turn to your left, your right, in front of you, behind you, and wish everybody Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. And for those of you who are over there on the camera, on templeshalom.com, on our live feed, or on YouTube, Shabbat Shalom to all of you as well. Happy to have you with us this evening. As we turn in our Siddur to page 140, we can all be seated now. Those of you who are home on the camera, you can be seated at home too. You might already be seated, I don't know. But we continue on page 140. Psalm 92, the Psalm of Shabbat, Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat. We sing a Psalm of Shabbat. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. It is good to give thanks to God on this beautiful Shabbat. Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. U'lizamer l'shimcha elyon. U'lizamer l'shimcha elyon. Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. U'lizamer l'shimcha elyon. U'lizamer l'shimcha elyon. Lahagi b'boker pastecha. Emunatecha b'leilot, alei asor ve'alei na ve'lalei higayon b'chinor. השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך ארנה. מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני מאוד, עמקו מחשבותיך. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. The last 8 lines of the psalm say, we can read them together in the English at the bottom. It's the indented paragraph, and then we'll sing the words in Hebrew. The righteous bloom like a date palm. They thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in the courtyards of our God. In old age, they still produce fruit. They are full of sap and freshness, attesting that Adonai is upright, my rock in whom there is no wrong. The psalmist wrote these words to say that, well, I think, thinking about kind of this time of year, the righteous bloom like a date palm. And so we, hopefully, over these days of the Yamim Noraim, the days of awe, we've done the work to bring our souls back into a place of righteousness after asking God for forgiveness during Yom Kippur. And we bloom like a date palm. Anybody have a date palm in your yard? I didn't think so. But if we were in Israel, this would be, we would all know what this is if we lived in the Middle East, because we'd walk by them every day. If you go down into the desert in Israel now, you'll see date palms all over the Arava and into the Negev. And the date palms, they're very, very tall trees. They're very tall. Like to get the dates out of the trees, you need a crane to go up top. Otherwise, you're going to need a ladder bigger than I've ever seen a ladder built. But on the date farms in the south of Israel, you have to take a crane to go all the way up to the top. And the roots of the date palm go very, very deep into the ground. Because on the top levels in the desert, it's very dry, right? There's not water. And the water is very, very deep down underneath. So the roots go very, very deep into the ground in search for water. And the tree grows very tall, and it has fruit in its upper limbs. And around the fruit, there's these big, giant spikes. And they're nasty, and they'll go right through your hand. And they'll cut you. I know, because I've been cut by them when I worked on a date farm in the south of Israel. And so why would we have that kind of a tree in this place? Well, if we are righteous, we could be like the date palm. We will have very deep roots. We will grow big and strong, and we will be able to protect the fruits of our labors just like the tree does. And so if we're righteous people, we'll exist just like those date palms do. And it would be a very meaningful metaphor for all of us if we lived there and saw those every day. They would be very meaningful to us. And we will thrive like the cedars in Lebanon. Cedars of Lebanon used to be the name of a hospital in Los Angeles. It really was. You were born at Cedars of Lebanon? Yeah, and then it merged with Mount Sinai Hospital and became Cedar Sinai Hospital, 2 Jewish hospitals, right? But what were the Cedars of Lebanon? Grand trees that were, I don't know that there's any cedars left in Lebanon, because they were chopped down over the years, and they were sent. Where can you find the wood of the cedars of Lebanon? In the palaces of Europe, and the palaces of Africa, and the palaces of Asia, because the wood is a very grand wood. So if we are righteous, we will have deep roots and be strong and protective like the date palm, and we will thrive and be very grand and wonderful like the cedars of Lebanon. Using the plants of the area of our ancestry to give us the metaphor of what our lives are like if we become righteous people and stay as righteous people. Tzaddik Hatamar on the inner paragraph of the Hebrew. Tzaddik Hatamar yifrach ke'erez balvanon yizkeh shetu Eloheinu Yafrihu Ojenuhu B'Seiva B'Sheni Bera'ananim Yihiyu Lehani Ki Ashar Adonai Suri Velo Avlatapo. We continue on page 144 as we make our way from our Kabalat Shabbat into our Mariv service. Yitkadav, Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, B'amad Yivrach Yerutei V'yamlich Malchutei, B'chayechon Uv'yomechon, Uv'chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala, Ba'agala, Uv'izman Ka'ariv Yimeru, Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mevarach, Le'alam Olam Almaya, Yitbarach, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, Yitbar, V'yitramam, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitalal, Shemei D'Kudusha, B'richu Le'ila Min Kol Berchata, V'shirata, Tushbechata, V'nechemata, Damihiron Ba'alma, V'yimeru, Amen. We turn to page 146 as we rise. And we call ourselves to prayer with our invitation to prayer. Our invitation to prayer. There's two prayers in a row in that sentence, but it works. Baruch Hu at the top of page 146. Lai 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 lai. Lai 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 lai. Lai 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 lai. Lai 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 lai. Lai 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 lai. Lai 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 lai. Baruch Hu et Adonai Amevorach. Baruch Adonai Amevorach. Amevorach le'olam va'ed. Amevorach. Amevorach le'olam va'ed. We can all be seated. We continue on page 148. We give thanks for creation with the prayer Ma'ariv Aravim. We'll read together in English at the bottom of 148. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly course according to your plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzavaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. 4 lines from the bottom of the Hebrew. El Chai V'Kayam, Tamidim Lochaleinu, Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Ha'ma'ariv Aravim. Lai 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 lai. We turn on page 151 as we read together at the top of the page. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Ahavat Olam on page 150 says, thank you, God, for giving us the Torah. We are reading tomorrow morning the Torah portion called V'zot HaBracha. It's a song of Moses. We don't have any musical notes, so we don't know how it sounded. But we have the formatting in the Torah that tells us that it was a song. Moses' final words were coming to the very end. This is the last Saturday that we'll read from the Torah in the book of Deuteronomy. Saturday after that, we'll read a special portion for Sukkot. And, well, the Saturday after that, we will already have celebrated Simchat Torah, and we'll be reading again from the very beginning of Bereshit. We actually have a bat mitzvah that weekend. She's very lucky. She gets to read the section that's right in between the first creation story and the second creation story, a really beautiful part of the beginning of the Torah. But each year, we might say to ourselves those words that we just read on page 151. I struggle with all of these words. How do I interpret them a different way this year? How do I learn new lessons? How do we take a look at all the chukim umishpatim, the laws and the statutes that God teaches to us, as it says in the fourth line of the prayer on page 150. But we say that all of these struggles that we might have and all these lessons that we get to follow these pathways of Torah, it's a gift of love, as we say, Ohev Amo Yisrael at the end of the prayer. You are the one who loves your people Israel by giving us the Torah. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Ahavta Amcha Ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadita Otanu limadita Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shochveinu v'kumenu nasiach b'chukecha v'nismach b'divrei toratecha uv'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed ki ein chayenu be'orech yameinu uvahem nehege yomam v'layla nehege yomam v'layla ve'ahavatcha al tasir mimenu le'olami baruch ata Adonai ohev amo Yisrael ohev amo Yisrael. We continue with the words of Shema on page 152 and 153. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad 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 Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Le'olam va'ed Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Le'olam va'ed Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Page 154. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha uv'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'aderech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot beinenecha uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvihisharecha leman tiskeru vasitem et kol mitzvotai v'item kedoshim le'elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim v'yod lachem le'elohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem emet. We read at the bottom of 154, you shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai, your God. We continue on page 157 as we read responsively at the bottom of the page. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing at the shores of the sea. As we turn to page 158, we sing as our ancestors did these words of freedom, as we made our way from the slavery in Egypt to freedom after wandering through the desert. A journey, keep that word in mind, a journey of redemption. We'll talk about journeys in just a few minutes here. But a journey of redemption from the narrow places of Egypt into the freedoms of Israel, as we have just gone through a journey during the Yamim Noraim, the days of awe, a journey from the slavery of sins and misdeeds and miscalculations, and made our way toward the freedom of the purity of our souls. And so it is indeed a song. This is our redemption song, that we are redeemed from Egypt, redeemed from narrow places in our lives. And so it fits together with other redemption songs that people have sung. Elim Adonai, mi kamocha, Nedar Kodesh, Nora Tehilot, Osefele, Nora Tehilot, Osefele. Won't you help to sing this song of freedom? 'Cause all I ever ask, redemption song. Malchut Tichara'u Manecha Bokeh Hayam Lifnei Moshe uMiriam Zeli Anu ve'omru Adonai Yimloch Le'olam va'ed. Don't you help to sing this song of freedom? 'Cause all I ever ask, redemption song, this song of freedom, redemption song. Some of you are too young to even know that music, right? Huh? You do? Okay, raise your hand if you don't know that song. Raise your hand if you don't know that song. Raise your hand if you do know that song. For those of you who don't know that song, you need to brush up on your reggae history. It's that melody. Did you just figure it out? It's a little, right? I always thought when I was a little kid that it always worked, because if you know that Bob Marley tune called Redemption Song, which fits in well with our Jewish redemption song, so Bob would, and the first line is it talks about pirates, and it said, "Old pirates, yes, they robbed me, sold I from the merchant ship," right? And I always thought when I was little, I always thought the song was this: "Old pirates, yes, they're rabbis." But I couldn't figure out why did they sell stuff from the merchant ship, because I didn't know any rabbis that were on a merchant ship. So the song never made sense to me when I was a little kid. So I couldn't figure out why rabbis were pirates on a ship. It made no sense to me back then. But now it makes sense to me when Bob Marley sings about redemption song, and we have our redemption song, and they kind of mash up together pretty well. So if you don't know it, brush up on your reggae history, and you'll hear a beautiful piece of music. What's that? I sound like Bob Dylan when I'm singing. I don't know if I can do it like Bob Marley, because I'm not from Jamaica, man. So I don't know. Old pirates, yes, they rabbi, sold I to the merchant ship. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit, but my hand was made strong by the hand of the Almighty. We flower in this generation triumphantly, and won't you help to sing this song of freedom? 'Cause all I ever ask, redemption song. I know that's a little more Bob Marley like, I don't know. Bob sings it the way that Bob Marley sings it, which is really beautiful and amazing. But we're going to turn to page 160. As we make our way to Hashkivenu, we say, God, lie us down in peace and cause us to rise again tomorrow to life, and protect us beneath the shelter of your wings. As we sleep, keep enemy and illness and war away from us, and keep famine and sorrow and wrongdoing away from us as well. Will you watch over our coming and our going? Will you spread a shelter of your peace over us? Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu, the Shalom, at the top of page 160. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu, the Shalom. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom. The third line of the Hebrew on page 116. Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha. The last three lines. Baruch atah Adonai Haborei Sukkot Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom. Now that melody, I know I sounded like the original recording artist of that melody. That's for certain. Because the original recording artist would be me. A little melody that I wrote some, I don't know, almost close to 30 years ago, I think I wrote that melody. On the original recording, Screamin' Scott Simon from Sha Na Na, who played at Woodstock. Sha Na Na, right? Screamin' Scott Simon, the piano player in Sha Na Na, actually played harmonica on the original recording of that little piece of music. So my brother plays it on the re-recorded version. On page 162, a beautiful, since we're talking about composers, a beautiful melody written by Debbie Friedman, one of the great contemporary Jewish composers. For these words that come to us from Exodus chapter 31, as Moses is coming down the mountain, God reminds him and says, make sure you remind the people that Shabbat is very important, and you can use these words that we have at the top of 162 to give them that important reminder. V'shameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat La'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam berit olam b'ni uven b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam ki sheshet yamim Asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz u'biyom hashvi'i Shabbat Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat Shabbat vayinafash Shameru Shabbat, Shabbat vayinafash, Shameru Shabbat, Shabbat vayinafash. We turn to page 164, we rise for the Amidah. We'll sing the first three paragraphs together and then take time for our own silent prayers. Adonai, Sifatai Tifach, Ufia, tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. 166. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chaste Avot v'Imahot, U'mevi Goel Livnei V'nehem, L'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham V'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, V'chayei Hakol Atah Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatah, Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed, Mechayei Hakol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofech Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayim Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memit Umechayei, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman Atah Chayot Hakol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayei Hakol. 170. Atah Kadosh, Shimcha Kadosh, Ukedoshim B'chol Yom Yahaladucha Selah, Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. On 172, in the Hebrew or the English or the traditional prayers. On 173, poetic renditions of the themes. Choose your pages, the even for the traditional prayers, the odd for the poetic renditions. We pray silently through page 180 and 181, or find the prayers that you find in your own heart and your own soul. This is your time for your own panim el panim, zman. This is your own time for your face-to-face time with God. When you finish with your personal prayers, please be seated. Page 180. Page 180, you'll find these words. Right in the middle of the page. Yiyu Luratzon Imrefi Region Libi Lifanecha Adonai Suri Vigoali Adonai Suri Vigoali. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart, may they all be acceptable unto you, Adonai, my rock and my Redeemer. Adonai, my rock and my Redeemer. You, Luratzon, Imrefi, Vegyo Libi Lifanecha Adonai Suri Vigoali Adonai Suri Vigoali. If you'll turn to page 371. We turn our thoughts to those who are in need of healing. We ask God to bring refuah shlema, complete healing, to Carrie Susser, Brian Zabel, Reuven ben Sipora, Moshe ben Avraham, Avram ben Odul, Ellen McIntosh, Susan Perry, Paltiela bat Mordechai Vivasha, John Sheck, Faye Green, Malka bat Hillel Halevi, Cheryl Miller, Jessica Sidman, Yaakov ben Baruch, Susan Sarachek, Yisraelit bat Hilda, Carol Miller, Howard Messerman, Judy Salkind, Yisrael Aharon ben Reuven Chaim HaKohen, Chris Todd, Mike Larison, and Harriet Neal. For those of you who are joining us online on TempleShalom.com's live stream or on YouTube, if you have names that you'd like to include for healing, you can either type them in the chat function where you are or say them out loud in your own home where you are. For those of us that are here, if anybody here has other names for healing, we'll start on this side of the room if anybody has additional names for healing. Anyone, anywhere? Or on this side of the room, any additional names for healing? Yes. Thank you. For all those we've named, yes. Thank you. For all those we've named, for all those in need, we ask that God will bring each one of them refuah shlema, complete healing, and may it come to them as quickly as possible. We sing these words of healing prayers in the middle of page 371. Mi sheberach avoteinu mikor habracha leimoteinu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi sheberach imoteinu mikor habracha leavoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. A little while ago, I mentioned the word journey. And I said, keep that in mind, because this week we talk about the journey of us, of the Jewish people. We just ended Yom Kippur. We're at the end of the journey in the Torah. Moses tomorrow morning will sing to us and give us our final send-off. There's a little bit more of Torah that we read, V'zot HaBracha, and that's on Simchat Torah, which is a week from Monday night. You can all join us at 6 o'clock. I hope you'll all join us. There'll be some food, there'll be dancing, there'll be music, there will also be dancing, and there will also be music, and there will be dancing with the Torah scrolls. So you want to be here on that night. It's a beautiful night. But this is a time of journeys. We finished the journey of the Torah. Moses tells us the finish of the journey through the 40 years in the desert. We're about to build the sukkah on Sunday morning. It'll be right out there, our temple sukkah. And the sukkah represents our wandering through the desert, our journey. And it's a reminder to us, both Moses' song tomorrow morning, the dancing that we'll do with the Torah scrolls on a week from Monday evening, dwelling in the sukkah with the lulav and the etrog and having meals in there. Look on the temple calendar, all sorts of events happening there. Every one of those things at this time of year is a reminder for us about the journey. We spend most of our lives, at least in Western culture we do, we spend most of our lives looking for the destination. There's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. There's a destination at the end of the journey. There's a goal that I'm going to achieve. And all that matters is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow and achieving the goal. But really, that's backwards. Because the least important thing is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And the least important thing is achieving the goal. It might sound very not Western civilization, but I guess it's not Western civilization. Because more important than the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and more important than the goal, is the journey. It's all about the journey. Some of you who've attended a funeral with me, part of life's journey, have heard me say on many occasions, because I say this often, that we're all born on a random day. And we all die on a random day. And you walk into any cemetery and you look at the headstones, and there's someone's name on it, and there's some random date they were born, and there's some random date that they died, and in between those dates, there's a little tiny dash. Sometimes there's a Jewish star, sometimes there's other symbols, but a lot of the time there's a little dash. And the most important thing on that entire headstone is the little tiny dash, the littlest thing on the headstone. because that's everything that matters. That was the journey of that person's life. The day we're born, random. The day we die, random. What do we do in between those two dates? We go on the journey of life. And it's the journey that matters. We set a goal. I'm going to get to this goal. And then you get to the goal, and then what? Hopefully you continue on a journey past the goal. So the goal wasn't really the goal. It was just a temporary stop along the way. The pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Well, anybody ever follow the rainbow to the end of the rainbow? What happens when you follow the rainbow to the end of the rainbow? You find out that the end of the rainbow is further away than you thought it was. We never get to the end of the rainbow because it keeps being further and further and further away. And that's a good thing, because if we got to the end of the rainbow, what's left? Nothing. It's all about the journey. Why did we wander 40 years in the desert after leaving Egypt on our way to the promised land? Well, the Torah tells us that we were not so faithful to God's ways, that we complained all the time. We fetched about this and we fetched about that. We just complained and we complained and we complained, right? We left Egypt. Some of you have heard the little midrash. We left Egypt. The sea parted, right? The army of Egypt is behind us and they're coming after us. And there's the water in front of us and the water parts. It's miraculous. And we start walking through. And what do the Israelites say according to the midrash? The Torah tells us they sing, Mi chamocha, right? Who is like you, God? But that's when they get across the water. When the water's wide open and they're walking through, what does the midrash tell us? It tells us, all the people look down at the ground and they're like, Moses, thanks a lot, you idiot. You got our shoes full of mud. You couldn't give us a dry pathway to walk through here. We have to walk through this muddy swamp thing here. There's mud on my sandals. Really? You just left 400 years of slavery. There's this miraculous sea parting, and there's dry land for you to go on, but it's not dry enough for you. You're going to complain. Right? We complained that there wasn't enough food. We complained that we didn't like the manna, so God gave us pheasants. We complained there wasn't enough water, so God gave us water. We complained and we complained and we complained, and that's why the Torah says that it took 40 years for us to make our way from Egypt to Israel. The last time I went from Egypt to Israel, granted it was a few decades ago, but the last time I went, and I did it by bus, it was like 12 hours. It wasn't 40 years. Right? I was a poor student back then. That's why I was 12 hours on a bus from Cairo to Tel Aviv. But it's like 45 minutes in an airplane, an hour in an airplane. It's really short. But we wandered for 40 years. The Torah tells us because we complained a lot, but that's not the real reason, I don't think. The real reason is because we needed to learn and relearn the idea of what it means to go on the journey. It's not about where you came from, and it's not about where you're going. It's the journey in between. And every bit of the journey is kind of temporary. It's why when we sit out in the sukkah is a temporary dwelling, because the journey is temporary. Do I know where I'm going on my journey? I know where I was yesterday. Got a pretty good idea of where I'll be tomorrow. But the journey that follows that, I don't know. Who am I going to meet? What am I going to learn? What new thing am I going to observe? How are each one of those things going to affect my journey? That's what this time of year is about. Finishing the Torah, sitting in the sukkah, hearing Moses' charge at the end of the 40 years in the desert, waving the lulav and the etrog and bringing visitors into the sukkah with us. Every bit of it is about the journey. And so as we've entered now, we're about 2 weeks now almost into our year 5783 on our Hebrew calendar. My prayer for me and for you and for all of us is that in 5783, let's take a little time to concentrate less on the goal and more on the journey. And the more we concentrate on the journey, I think, and I believe, the more we'll learn along the way, and the better people we will be because of the lessons along the journey. Keni Hiratzon, I pray that this for all of us will be God's will As we say in Hebrew, I wish you all a Nesiah Tovah. It means a good journey. We continue as we turn to page 586 in our Siddur. At the bottom of the page, 586, at the bottom of the page, as we rise, we join together in the words of Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, lateit gedula liyotzeh bereshit, shelo asanu k'goyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahen, v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam, va'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech malchei hamelachim, hakadosh baruch hu, shehu noteh shamayim veyoser haaretz, umoshav yikaro bashamayim mima'al, ushchinatu zo, v'govhe meromim, hu Eloheinu ein od, emet malkeinu efes ulato, kakatu b'torato, yadata hayom v'hashivota elevavecha, ki Adonai hua Elohim, bashamayim mima'al, ve'al ha'aretz, mitachat ein od, in the middle of 590. Ki hamalchut shelcha hi olam yatimloch bechavod, kakatu b'toratecha Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed, v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol ha'aretz, bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad, ushemo echad, ushemo echad. We can all be seated. We turn in our Siddur to page 598. As we come to Kaddish Atom, the mourner's Kaddish. In our yard sites this week, we recall the memories of Harold Gordon, Sylvia Perry, David Cohen, Alice Cram, Lillian Shapiro, Lily Goldstein, Sarah Gang, Alfred Schwartz, Anita Cohen, Dorothy Schmemmerman, Edward Summerfield, Elsie Katinsky, Leonard Savitt, Max Mogilner, Ruth Brassard, Zita Bram, Ida Neff, Ruth Footlick, Frida Asaf, Helen Hubble, Hyman Waldbaum, Jane Weingarten, Sam Hafter, Nathan Cook, Albert Heim, Evelyn Oppenheim, Rose Douglas, Esther Kaiser, Jesse Morris III, Margaret Mayer, and Sage Morris. Are there any other yard sites that anyone is observing this week? Yehiyu zichronam levracha. May their memories be a blessing. We ask mourners to rise and those whose custom it is to stand for Kaddish Atom, mourners Kaddish, as we, in their memory, sanctify God's name. Page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam olmei olmaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudashad brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran ve'alma v'yimru amen. Yehi shlam araba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom bimramav, huya aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol Yoshvei Tevel, v'yimru amen. We can all be seated. A couple of quick announcements before we bring our service to a close. Thank you all for being here. And thank you to those of you who are online with us on YouTube and on our TempleShalom.com live stream. Services tomorrow, 9:30 in the morning. We will be reading. We're getting very close to the end of Deuteronomy, so we'll be reading we'll be reading from the Torah at the very end of the book of Deuteronomy, so that we might come and bring our story to a close. And so you can join us tomorrow as we read Parashat Ha'azinu, this song of Moses. Sunday morning, 8:30 a.m. If you would like free coffee, free donuts, and free bagels, come to Temple Shalom Sunday morning and help build our sukkah. Not exactly free. Your labor gets you free coffee and donuts and bagels. But please join us on Sunday, October 9th, 8:30 a.m. to set up our sukkah. Religious school starts at 9:30. Our religious school kids are making all kinds of wonderful decorations. And then after all the holidays on Sunday, October 23rd, we'll be taking the sukkah down. Be sure to join us on Sunday night, October 9th, after our sukkah is built. Later that night, we will have our Erev Sukkot service. Our Erev Sukkot service begins at 6:30 p.m., just like our Shabbat services do. You can join us in the sukkah as we welcome in Sukkot. By the way, as we're building the sukkah at the end of religious school at noon, there'll be pizza in the hut. So you can join us for pizza in the hut and have a little pizza while you're helping to build stuff and decorate stuff there. You do need to RSVP by tomorrow night. We are asking, I think it's $5 or $10, but it's on the website per family and the services will be there included to join us. You can join us on Monday morning as well at 9:30 in the morning, as you can come for our Sukkot morning service. And then at the end of Sukkot, we'll have our Shmini Atzeret service with Yizkor a week later. Please check AmazonSmile.com, or I guess it's smile.amazon.com. Go to your King Super Card and register that for Temple Shalom as well. Make sure that you do box tops for education, and make sure that if you order things from Shutterfly, like pictures and t-shirts and mugs, and buy all the expensive stuff, but sign up at Temple Shalom first and then buy all the expensive stuff. But any of those places, Shutterfly, King Supers, Amazon, box tops for education, if you register Temple Shalom on those places, you make money for Temple Shalom. It costs you no extra money at all. So if you haven't signed up and you need help, the office will help you do that. You can do that as well. Please check the temple calendar. All kinds of great stuff going on during Sukkot. Not only our Erev Sukkot services, but there's going to be a lunch and learn on Wednesday in the middle of Sukkot, so you can bring your own lunch on Wednesday at 12, or you can get senior lunch here if you're registered for that. That evening, there's going to be sipping in the sukkah. Bring your bottle of wine, and we're going to drink a little wine and learn a little Torah in the sukkah. If you are in our 20 or 30-something-year-old crowd, and you want to join us in the sukkah, if you're 20-something or 30-something, or all right, if you're 40 and close to 30-something, we'll fudge it a little bit. That'll work. But we'll let you come. And it's Jews and brews in the sukkah. Bring your picnic dinner. I'm supplying the beer. So if you're in your 20s or 30s and you want to come drink some beer, you can come and do that with us and study a little Torah as well and hang out and have a picnic dinner. All kinds of great stuff going on in the sukkah. On Saturday night, a week from tomorrow night, in the middle of Sukkot, there's going to be s'mores and hot chocolate in the sukkah. It's all on the temple website. Lots of great stuff going on. So you want to be part of all those things that are going on. If you know of anybody who is ill or hospitalized or suffering from loss, please let the temple office know so that I and our caring committee can visit with them and make sure that they have the visits that they need. We're going to bring our service to a close before we go in the back for Kiddush and Motzi. We're talking about a journey. And I thought since we're all going on a journey, maybe we should sing Tfilat HaDerech as our final little piece of music and prayer this evening. Tfilat HaDerech means the traveler's prayer. It's the prayer of the way. You'll find the words on 649. It's all in English. We sang a piece of music by Debbie Friedman, and this is Debbie Friedman's piece of music that took the traveler's prayer and made it into English. And since we're going on a life journey, this is the prayer that you traditionally say if you're going to get on an airplane or go across the sea. But it also works if we're jumping off on our journey of the year this year, after having come through all of our Yamim Noraim, our days of awe, at the very top of page 649. May we be blessed as we go on our way. May we guided in peace. May we be blessed with health and joy. May this be our blessing. Sheltered beneath the wings of peace. May we be kept in safety and in love. May grace and compassion find their way to every soul. May this be our blessing. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. For those of you online with us, Laila Tov and Shabbat Shalom to you. For those of you here at Temple Shalom, we'll join together in the social hall for a little Kiddush and Motzi. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Amen. Amen. May this be our blessing. Amen.